Last night, the US and Japan signed a major trade deal that has investors excited, and you can see how the S&P 500 is up about 22 points since the close yesterday. So the great news as far as this trade deal is concerned, from Japan's perspective, they've said that this is the lowest tariff for countries that trade with the US and that have a trade surplus. So the new tariff is going to be 15% versus 27.5%. And Japan has been holding out as long as possible. They said that they're not going to be backed into a corner just because of a trade deadline. This is our fifth largest trading partner, so it is substantial. I think there's also a political side to it, with China starting to have greater military maneuvers in that area, and with the potential for them to invade Taiwan looming, a strong Japan is good for the US, and having good relations with Japan is very important. I believe the same is true for India, and we could see a trade deal there anytime as well. So those are a couple of the large pending trade deals. As far as the market is concerned, you can see how this gradual grind higher on a D1 chart has continued, and the market is simply floating higher. There hasn't been a lot of news to drive the market in the last week. So yes, we do have some earnings announcements. In fact, we had Texas Instruments came out yesterday after the close. Stock was down about 15% on that news. So we can take a look at what Texas Instruments is doing before the open. But before we do that, if you find the content in my channel to be useful, please give this video a thumbs up. It's going to help me reach more traders. Subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss picks like BULL. This is a stock that I highlighted in my Sunday video. You can see this is the price action on Friday. Stock got very, very overheated. So you needed to wait for a pullback, and I'd mentioned as much. You don't want to chase a move like this. Get a nice little pullback. Stock's able to find support. Yesterday, when the market was moving lower and lower, the stock found support. So let's put the overlay of the SPY up. And I actually had a long position, and I added to the position yesterday. You can see, let's go into that 5-minute chart for greater clarity. There's the S&P 500 selling off yesterday, and look at how the stock found early support and was grinding higher before the market had even moved up. So really nice relative strength for the stock all day. Look at that volume, and you can see how it went almost parabolic into the close yesterday. So I still like this stock a lot. I love the D1 chart because it's a stock that was IPO'd about 8 months ago. And you can see how it sold off hard and formed this nice base. Well, that is a support level that we're going to be leaning on, but so is everyone else. Lots of people like buying low. And when they see a base like this and a stock that's starting to break out through these resistance levels, they get really excited by it. So I think that this has a lot of investors really anxious to get into this stock, and I believe that it could move substantially higher. Plus, they're building out a cryptocurrency platform, and as I'd mentioned in Sunday's video, the Genius Act is going to help cryptocurrency transactions and platforms. The whole stable coin concept is going to feed right into what this company is doing. So I still like BULL. So let's get back to Texas Instruments, and let's take a look at the overnight price action for that stock. So obviously this is going to weigh on the chip sector, and we've had mixed results. We had ASML, which is a semiconductor equipment manufacturer. They came in with fairly weak guidance, and then we had that followed up with Taiwan Semiconductor. They actually rallied on the news, and now we have Texas Instruments with the stock pulling back. We can see the after hours price action right here. And you can see how Texas Instruments dropped from about the $118 level all the way down to $190 overnight. it started to recover some of those losses. So really mixed signals in the semiconductors. Don't know what to expect. I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis. I like NVIDIA. Now they're going to be able to sell the H2O chip to China, so that's going to be a big market for them. So just back to the whole trade deal situation and the news that's unfolding. The news this week is actually very light. Earnings are starting to ramp up. We do have Tesla reporting earnings after the close today. We have IBM reporting this week. We have Google reporting after the close today. So the market's going to be very carefully watching those releases. But from an economic standpoint, there really aren't a lot of headlines coming out this week. That's going to be next week. Ton of economic releases next week. The jobs report obviously being the most important. We've seen initial jobless claims coming down in the last 2 weeks, so the jobs report could be pretty decent. So I'm not expecting any fireworks there. I'm not expecting a market speed bump there. Government jobs increased dramatically in last month's report. We're probably not going to see a repeat there. And private sector employment has been slowing. So not looking for a gangbuster number, but I'm not looking for a horrible number either. Jobs report comes in around 100K. I think it's going to be market friendly. Fed meeting next week. So another big event with CPI ticking up last week and with jobs being relatively stable. I don't see the Fed really doing anything. So what's going to be happening over the course of the next few weeks? What's the market look like? I believe that there's not a lot of news to really push the market one way or the other. Its earnings are going to determine where we go in August and September. So as long as this gradual float higher continues, stay the course. I like keeping my trades very short term right now. I'm not aggressively bullish because I am waiting for any kind of little dip or pullback in here. And it's most likely going to come on a gap up. So, hey, this morning we've got a gap up Japan trade deal. Oh, goody. I'm going to come in and buy this because the market is going to just charge higher. I would urge you not to do that, because almost every gap up that we've seen in the last week and a half has been faded. That means that it attracts profit taking and the market sells off on that news. And I can go into a 15-minute chart and I can show you what I'm talking about. There's a gap up to a new high and a sell-off. There's a gap up with a little bit of follow-through, and then we saw relatively heavy selling pressure. This was just on Monday. And I know I've got other examples from last week. Gap up to a new all-time high, market sells off. So do not chase gaps up. Eventually, when the market does establish a temporary high, it's likely to come off of a gap up. And when you get that gap up, you're going to see long red candles stack, and there's going to be a big reversal. It will lead to a bearish engulfing candle on a D1 basis. Again, that type of top is not likely to come on a gap down. In fact, gaps down are our best trading setup right now. Those should be really attractive to you, because as soon as the market finds support, just like yesterday, it gradually confirms that support and buyers come in. So they're not going to chase at this level, but once they have that assurance that the low is in, they're going to start nibbling and they're going to start coming in. And that's when you can take a nice long position in stocks that preserve their relative strength during this market decline. Yesterday, I traded Caterpillar, and I'll show you an example of what that looks like. Caterpillar, there's the 5-minute chart, and I'm going to take off the extended hours, and you can see how the stock actually opened higher for the day, even when the S&P was selling off. Green line above zero. That shows us it has relative strength. We can see it even better if I put the SPY overlay up. So there's your market decline right from the open, big gap down, and there's what the stock did. Even as the market is establishing support, it's starting to grind higher. That is the pattern that you want to look for right now. Market down, market pulls back early in the day, market trying to establish support. Which stocks are treading water? Which stocks are ticking higher? Those are the stocks, if they have decent volume, that are going to be moving higher through the course of the day. We simply need to wait for that market support to be confirmed, and then they're going to take off, and we're joining that longer term market uptrend. Heavy volume, very important. So look for stocks that are breaking through technical resistance levels. That's how you should be trading right now. So gap up, ooh, I'm not going to chase that. I'm not going to touch that. I need to wait for some type of market pullback. And I'm going to go into Monday's chart, and I'm going to show you that I mentioned this in the chat room, and this is how we were trading. In here, we had a gap up, okay? Market looked great. Stacked green candles, new all-time high. Yay! Well, by the time we did this in the first half hour, which I don't advocate chasing gaps up in the first half hour, absolutely not, because they can reverse. So this is a nice, decent move. Your mentality should be, I am going to have a trading window sometime today without chasing this move higher. I simply have to be patient, and I have to wait for it. And so here you finally get your nice little dip down to VWAP. Awesome. When the move is nice and steep like this early in the day, you know that that can't be sustained. You're going to get a pullback at some point in time. So you just have to wait. And you would wait for this test of VWAP. This is where you have an opportunity to get long. So it doesn't last but an hour, hour and a half, and then the market is struggling to get through the high of the day, to get through the all-time high. So you start taking profits when you see it retrace. This is a lower high, double top, only by a few pennies, but it can't get through that resistance level. So that was your window of opportunity. You might get a test of VWAP and then another bounce and a move higher off of it. Okay, that's fine, but you're waiting for that test. In this case, market breaks down. Uh-oh, I'm not going to be buying in here. This is not what I wanted to see. So that's how you should be trading it. In here, when we have long red candles that are really big and that only have two of them together, that move right there is not nearly as strong as this move, this bounce, that unfolds over the course of 2 hours. Here we've got two red bars, only 10 minutes worth of price action. This can be created by sell programs. They flush out weak hands, and then the market finds support. So only a couple of bars, that type of move is not nearly as meaningful as sustained movement with higher lows. So keep that in mind as well. So what are we looking at as far as potential trades? There's a hot stock that I've been keeping on my radar, and I've started to see some support in it the last couple of days. So it's the one that I'm going to highlight today. And that stock is, let me get off the SPY overlay, and it is CRWV. And what do I like regarding this stock? Now, I know that some of you are bored with selling out of the money puts. Well, right now, I see a major news window coming up. We've got potential trade deals. Again, I expect to hear something regarding India, which also regarding trade deals. Got the Japan trade deal done. Now, Scott Bessent said that in all likelihood, the China trade negotiations are going to continue after the August 12th deadline. What does that mean? That means they're going to continue to negotiate. They're going to continue to push that timeline back. It shouldn't freak the market out. The market shouldn't be afraid of what's happening. they're in negotiation. So that's a good sign. And we have other trade deals that are likely to be announced. So I like CRWV. You can see this is a downtrend. So I would not be buying this stock yet. But what I have seen is support. And we're starting to see support around that 50-day moving average. And you can see how the stock is just below a VWAP-E. That's calculated from the last earnings release. I view that as a significant support level because everyone that was very excited to buy this stock after that earnings announcement, well, this is their average cost since that earnings announcement. So I'm expecting to see support here, and we are starting to see it. So what do I want out of this stock? So if I'm a short-term trader, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see the stock get above a VWAP-E. I'd like to see heavy volume coming in. Very important, because that tells me institutions are back in the stock. They're interested at this level. They've waited for that pullback, and they see this as an opportunity to enter well. Hover over the E. Another important point in this video, you have to be aware of earnings announcement dates. 8/13 is the earnings for this particular stock. If the company has a lot of other similar competitors, you have to be aware of tangent earnings announcements because it's going to impact the stock. Well, this is a fairly unique stock. It's a tech stock, so I'm not too concerned about that. It is an IPO, so we don't have a lot of data. Look at this volume, though. This volume, and you've heard me highlight CRWV. We already sold an out-of-the-money bullish put spread, or we sold some naked puts on it a few weeks ago. I love this nice tight price action on massive volume. Stock got a little bit overextended. What was the pullback like? Well, wimpy. Mixed overlapping candles. Yes, there are more red than green, obviously, but not a dramatic move. And now the stock is finally starting to find some support. And yesterday it had a little bit of relative strength throughout the early hours of trading. And you can see it here. So relative to the market, it didn't sell off. If sellers were aggressively nailing this stock, yesterday when we had the gap down, you would have seen this stock make a new low, and it would have taken out that support very easily. Didn't happen. All right. Those are the first signs that buyers are interested at this level. So if I'm day trading this stock, I want to see it get above AVWAP-E. I'd love to see it get above this downward sloping trend line that I have right here, nice and tight. And if it can do that, then I'm going to be day trading it from the long side. If I'm a swing trader and I want to be relatively passive right now, while all of this news is hitting the market, I know that I have an options expiration that I can take advantage of. Earnings on 8/13, so we want to make sure that the options that we sell expire before that earnings announcement date. So we can put up our option chain and we could take a look for the August 8th expiration, which is before earnings. Take a look at the 105 puts. We could probably get $2.50 for those. If we sell those for $2.50, sell the naked puts. Now you can see a very wide bid-ask spread between the different strike prices. So getting a spread off is going to be relatively difficult. Getting a single leg off is not going to be as hard. High option implied volatilities. So selling the 105 puts, getting $2.50. I like to put up $55, which is half of the strike price. You're going to be able to generate roughly a 4.5% return on this trade in 2 little weeks. That's a fantastic return. And look, I'm 25% out of the money. I can go all the way down to the 105 strike price. This to me is a no-brainer, and especially with the stock starting to find some support. So we want to see continued support. If you sell those puts, we don't want to see a nice long red candle below this support level. If 1 week transpires and the stock is still treading water and finding support here, that's beautiful, because you're going to see that time premium decay in these options, and then you're only a week out, and it makes the position a lot easier to manage. But you have to be a willing buyer of this stock at 105, which puts us down to this support level. Stock rallies up, tests the bid is strong, rallies from that point, so that's a minor support level. Are you a willing buyer at that support level? If the answer is yes, then this is a really good trade. Now, you're going to have to hold that stock through earnings, but you've seen that buyers have been very interested in this stock. This is a tech company, so this is a very powerful move on heavy volume. Institutions are interested in it. You can see that this pullback has been relatively wimpy. It's just got ahead of itself. So that's one way to approach this trade. It's a 2-week long trade. But the other, and I would actually consider this a little bit more passive approach, is to wait for the market to have this nice move higher and wait for that stock to break out above that downward sloping trend line. When you have that and you've got decent volume coming into it, the stock has a chance to get back up to the previous high, which is somewhere around the $180 level, $187 level. Very nice upside to this trade. So I like CRWV. I did put up a number of other stocks that look attractive. CRWV is the one that I'm highlighting. I'm just going to show you a couple of others. And we're in earnings season, so this is an approach that you should be using. Who has recently announced earnings? Again, we don't like to hold over earnings when we're trading. There's no reason for us to do that. It's a binary event, and we don't want risk exposure. Why would I want to buy Texas Instruments before an earnings announcement? Oops, the stock's down 50%. I don't want to put my head in that noose, and option implied volatilities are extremely high. So wait for the news, then trade after the news. Well, these stocks have already announced earnings, and we can see what that reaction has been. Citigroup, really nice reaction. Stock continuing to move higher, good relative strength. AA is one that I actually like. Let's zoom out a little bit. It's at this horizontal resistance level. You can see stock has been making higher lows. It's in a bit of a trading channel. It has room to get up to that 200-day moving average. It easily cleared that 100-day moving average, and the reaction since that earnings announcement has been very positive. So I like AA. You can see CLF, another basic material stock, has done well since releasing earnings. This one's a little bit ahead of itself. Nice breakout there. Earnings before the open. You can see how it broke through the 200-day moving average with ease. Wait for a pullback. Again, this is not a high-tech company. This is an iron ore manufacturer or producer. So there's no reason to rush into a commodity stock like that. Wait for the stock to pull back. Wait for that support, and then you'll have an opportunity to enter that trade. So the main point for this is make sure that you're looking at stocks that have announced earnings over the course of the last 2, 3, 4 days. Wait for that news to settle down and see what that direction is. If you've got a nice gap up on big volume through a major resistance level, and the stock has been able to preserve those gains after that earnings announcement, that's a good sign. That's a sign that buyers are accumulating shares, and that is particularly true when you have a market pullback like we had yesterday. That's the beauty of these market pullbacks, is that they are a big tell. There's a reveal. So you get that earnings gap up, stock is holding its own. Here's a market decline, and the stock is still holding all of those gains. That is the tell. That is the confirmation that you're looking for. That's how you get your odds to be very high. You know that if you're a little bit early on the market and the market continues to go lower, that this stock has those institutional buyers. So your downside risk is very limited. Your upside reward is plentiful. So it's a good risk reward scenario. That's how you should be trading right now. Those are the tells that you should be looking for. I'm going to be doing a video Sunday. Watch for me then. Please give this video a thumbs up and leave your comments. Have you seen any earnings reactions that have been really positive that you're trading right now? Let us know and I'll review your trade. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you Sunday.
Thank you for watching this YouTube video. I'm Pete Stolzers and I'm going to keep the trade ideas coming along with lots of education, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and please turn on your notifications so that you never miss another trade. If you like the content, please give it a thumbs up. I've loaded 2 other videos that I think you're really going to enjoy. Stay tuned. We'll see you soon.